Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something literally delightful and honestly surprisingly brilliant. We're going step by step through a highly interactive preschool lesson plan dedicated entirely to the letter G. Whether you're an educator, a parent, or really just someone fascinated by how we learn our very first building blocks of language, you are absolutely going to love how this curriculum is structured.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. We are going to move from meeting the G sound to seeing the letter G, brainstorming G words, the G detective hunt, and finally, closing magic practice.
Section 1. Meeting the G sound. Before a kid even looks at a letter on a page, they actually need to feel it. This lesson plan beautifully starts with the physical sensation of the sound itself. We aren't looking at any letters yet. We're literally just experiencing the mechanics of speech. Imagine you're right there in the classroom. The teacher asks you to make the sound out loud. G, g, g. Try it with me. Can you feel your throat wiggle when you say it? That is exactly how the teacher introduces it to a preschooler. By feeling that wiggle, the abstract concept of a letter becomes a tangible physical sensation right in their own body.
And the curriculum uses some great auditory anchors here. They tell the kids that this g, g sound is exactly like a goose honking, or maybe the growl of a really happy puppy. It instantly connects a new, totally unfamiliar sound to real-world noises that toddlers already know and love.
Let's move to Section 2, seeing the letter G, and see how this builds. Now that the students have felt the sound and heard the sound, here's where we finally map that auditory g, g, g to a physical shape. And instead of just pointing and saying, this is big G and this is little g, which is honestly pretty dry, the curriculum gives each shape a distinct, totally memorable personality.
For the uppercase G, the teacher tells the students, it looks like a big circle, but it has a little hook at the end, like a candy cane hiding inside a circle. Think about how vivid that is. As you hear those words, you can mentally trace that circle and map that hidden candy cane right onto the shape of the uppercase letter. Then we look at the lowercase g. The lesson describes it as having a round belly and a long tail that likes to hang down low, like it's dangling off the line. These vivid anthropomorphic descriptions, a round belly, a dangling tail, they are exactly the kinds of hooks that stick in a young child's mind, making visual recognition a whole lot easier.
All right, Section 3, brainstorming G words.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that we don't just passively list words. We're associating this new letter with active physical movements to firmly lock in the vocabulary. For goat, you don't just say the word, you actually pretend to chew grass like a goat. Go ahead, try it. For green, you actively look around the room for something green. For grapes, you pretend to pick a bunch and eat them. And for gift, you mime opening a big, exciting present. It is total physical engagement with the language.
Which brings us to Section 4, the G detective hunt.
This is where the lesson tests the student's knowledge, but it does it through a highly interactive, super high-energy game rather than some boring standard quiz. Here are the rules for our little detectives. The kids are told that if the word starts with a g, g sound, they shout, go. But if it doesn't, they have to stay super quiet. So let's see how it works. You can play along too.
Here comes the very first picture. Look closely. Does guitar start with G?
Go! The whole class shouts because guitar definitely starts with that g-g-g sound.
Now, let's see what happens with the next picture the teacher holds up for the class. Does apple start with G?
And this is where the whole classroom stays super quiet. The students have to exercise impulse control and auditory discrimination. There's no throat-wiggling g-g-g sound in apple, so we hold our breath and stay absolutely silent.
All right, let's bring the energy right back up for the final picture in our detective hunt. Get ready. Does gorilla start with G?
Go! Yes, it absolutely does. Gorilla gives us that perfect throat wiggle, and the classroom basically erupts to celebrate beating the game.
Finally, Section 5, closing magic practice. This brilliantly illustrates how to end a lesson with kinesthetic reinforcement. You don't just wind down and pack up your bags, you lock the learning into the body one last time. First, the teacher praises the students for a wonderful job. Then, they ask everyone to get their magic fingers ready. Seriously, do it with me. Hold up your index finger, your magic finger. Now, using that big candy cane and circle shape we learned earlier, draw a giant G right there in the air in front of you. It's just a fantastic, large motor skill way to end the whole session. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought.
How can you apply this magic finger drawing technique, this full body action association, and this sensory storytelling to other letters or even entirely different subjects you might want to teach? Learning isn't just about staring at a page. It's about feeling, moving, and experiencing the information. Try bringing a little bit of this preschool magic into your next explanation and see what happens. Thanks for learning with us today.